Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicholas. In this video we will look at another very tragic story. In the quiet and cozy town of Sarasota, located on the shores of the warm Gulf of Mexico in Florida, life flowed smoothly and serenely. It was a resort town where everyone felt safe, until one day an event occurred that shocked everyone. At the center of this story is 11-year-old Carlie, whose life, like that of any child, was full of various events. Her parents divorced many years ago, but the girl continued to love them both. She spent every weekend with her father, to whom she flew to New York, although most of the time Carlie lived with her mother and stepfather. Carlie was a truly wonderful child, kind, positive, and always tried to share her inexhaustible optimism with others. Her father put a lot of love and warmth into her, which made her who she was. Carlie had blonde hair, blue eyes, and a snub nose. Friends, relatives, and acquaintances never stopped admiring her beauty and character. Many predicted her future as a famous model or actress. But neither the relatives nor Carlie herself could have imagined that, unfortunately, this would not happen. January 31st, 2004 was an ordinary day. Carlie decided to spend the weekend visiting a friend. The girls were doing all the things that friends usually do, staying at each other's houses for the night. They painted each other's nails, listened to music, and chatted about their classmates. The time at the party flew by so quickly that they did not even notice how evening had come. Traditionally, on Sunday evenings, the whole family gathered together to watch the Super Bowl game. Carlie really wanted to get home in time for the start of the game, so she told her friend's mom that her parents were waiting for her at home and she could go home alone. Her friend's mom was worried, but Carlie insisted and went home at 6:13 p.m. It took only 13 minutes to get to the street where her family lived. It was only 750 meters. After Carlie left, her friend's mother, worried, contacted her parents and informed them that Carlie had left alone. Susan, Carlie's mom, was very worried that her daughter had gone home all alone, even though the distance was only 2 blocks. In a state of anxiety, Susan turned to her husband Stephen, Carlie's stepfather, with a request to come out to meet the girl. Stephen immediately went to meet Carlie. They were supposed to meet halfway and go into the store. Stephen always spoiled his stepdaughter, and the night before the match, he promised to buy her a lot of sweets. Stephen walked all the way several times, but he couldn't find Carlie. The girl disappeared. From this moment, the real horror in the life of Carlie and her parents begins. The feeling of anxiety was not in vain, because there were events ahead that would shake the whole city. Stephen searched for Carlie for over an hour. He walked the route a few more times in the hope that he and Carlie had just gone their separate ways. It became obvious that something had happened to her. After all, the distance between the houses was not that big, and the route was known to everyone. Susan and Stephen went looking for Carlie again. They walked around the streets, circled the districts, shouting loudly, looking for a girl by name. They looked at all the suspicious places, such as the forest plantation, and at that moment they noticed something really strange. A red tow truck was slowly passing by them, and they decided to follow it. Susan and Stephen continued to follow the tow truck and saw it heading towards Carlie's friend's house, which of course surprised them. The same red tow truck they had seen earlier was parked at Carlie's friend's house, from which she had left a couple of hours ago and disappeared. It was parked at Carlie's friend's house. It seemed strange to the parents. After it became clear that Carlie was nowhere to be found, Susan decided it was time to call for help and called 911. The search for missing children always requires immediate action. Therefore, the police immediately divided into groups and began interviewing the family of Carlie's friend, as well as her parents, Stephen and Susan. Detectives carefully examined the route and the surrounding area, but failed to find the girl. Stephen and Susan were desperate and didn't know what to do next. Friends of Carlie's family joined the search. Flyers with a photo and an inscription about Carlie's disappearance were visible on all the walls and pillars of the city. The next morning, a suspicious event occurred, causing some people to doubt Stephen, Carlie's stepfather. When he was handing out flyers at one of the local companies, he asked one of the employees if he could buy illegal substances for him. The staff found it very suspicious because his stepdaughter had disappeared just a couple of days ago. The staff contacted the authorities and told them about the incident. Detectives also kept a close eye on Stephen, considering him suspicious. The police decided to call Stephen in for questioning. During the interrogation, Stephen stated that he was at home with Susan all the time, which she also confirmed. Moreover, when he walked down the street to meet her from a friend's house, he talked to Susan on the phone all the time, which was confirmed by phone records. Stephen reported that he had not found Carlie and had been looking for her for more than an hour, walking along her route. After Stephen's alibi was fully verified, he remained under suspicion. But Stephen remembered the suspicious red tow truck that he and Susan had seen on the day of the disappearance. The owner was Ron Chilcott. Ron had been dating Carlie's friend's mom for several months. Stephen told police that he saw a truck driving slowly near a wooded area immediately after Carlie disappeared and then parked near Carlie's friend's house. Investigators have also begun to test this theory. They called Ron in for questioning. Ron reported that he left for work before Carlie left and did not notice anything unusual. The police also tracked Ron's movements that day, checked his alibi, and excluded him from the list of suspects since he was at work at the time of Carlie's disappearance, which was confirmed by his employer and CCTV cameras. The day after Carlie disappeared, the police decided to talk to Susan again. She claimed in front of the police that her daughter had never run away from home before, and she had no reason to think that Carlie could have run away. However, the information received from Carlie's friends was very different from the version that Susan told. One of Carlie's friends told the police that she had been extremely depressed and upset the previous day. In her conversations, she expressed her reluctance to return home, claiming that there were too many responsibilities waiting for her there. This new information led law enforcement agencies to consider the possibility that Carlie could have left voluntarily. However, given her young age, investigators could not completely rule out the abduction theory. In an attempt to provide complete clarity, investigators asked Susan to contact Carlie's dentist to obtain dental records that may be useful in case identification is needed. The next morning, the police brought in service dogs to search for Carlie. Susan and Stephen let dog handlers with service dogs into their daughter's bedroom. The dogs sniffed the girl's bedding and clothes and picked up the trail. They followed Carlie's intended route from her friend's house to her house. Carlie's footprints led the police to the car wash, through which, apparently, Carlie wanted to take a shortcut. At the back entrance of the car wash, the dogs lost track of Carlie. Fortunately, 2 cameras were installed on the territory. One recorded cars located closer to the entrance, the other a remote area. Unfortunately for the police, there were also blind spots that remained out of sight. The police realized that if Carlie was taken away by a criminal, it is unlikely that he did it under the supervision of cameras. But they began to study the records. The camera at the entrance did not record anything. That evening, the police reviewed the surveillance footage from 18 to 2100 hours, but found nothing suspicious. However, the second camera recorded several interesting moments. At 6:21 p.m., she captured Carlie walking toward the house. She was wearing a red t-shirt and blue jeans, and her hair was tied up in a bun. Suddenly, a man with white skin, large build, medium height, dark hair, and a tattoo on his forearm appeared in the frame. He was wearing a dark blue jumpsuit with a badge. It was probably the last person to see Carlie alive. His face and badge were not visible on the recording. The police published the recording in the news and newspapers, hoping to find at least someone who could recognize him. Within 24 hours, the police call center operators received more than 700 calls, but all of them were unsuccessful. In the evening, they received information that led them to find the perpetrator. On Tuesday, February 3rd, the police received information from a man who recognized the man in the video. The caller introduced himself as the business partner of the man on the recording and said his name was Joseph Smith. The new suspect was 37 years old, suffering from back problems and dependence on illegal substances. He had a long criminal history, including charges of seducing minors and assaulting women. One of Joseph Smith's colleagues reported that he had been acting strangely since Carlie's disappearance and had not shown up for work the day before. Colleagues confirmed that the man on the recording strongly resembles Smith, both in appearance and in behavior and clothing. The police decided to review all the videos from the car wash once again to try to link the kidnapper to one of the cars passing or stopping near the car wash. Joseph's colleagues reported that he drove a brown Lincoln, but it was under repair at the time of the abduction. Among the cars seen in the video, the police noticed a suspicious light Buick station wagon. He stopped in the parking lot of a car wash 3 minutes before Carlie disappeared. The quality of the video did not allow the police to install the license plate and identify the driver. The police went to Joseph Smith, who rented a room from friends. His wife kicked him out of the house. He insisted that he was at home watching the Super Bowl at the time of Carlie's disappearance. However, when he was shown an image of a man who looked like him, he recognized the resemblance. Police found tattoos on his forearms similar to those in the video, as well as scratches on his face and hands. He admitted that he borrowed a car from friends, but claimed that he drove to the nearest marina just to admire the view of the water. The police conducted a search and arrested Joseph for violating probation. However, a few hours later, his friend, Mimi's husband, reported that she had mixed up the dates. They said they gave him a car, but he didn't come back in the evening. They also confirmed that Joseph arrived at their place just before morning. They also testified that the odometer was reset before Joseph left, but after returning they found that he had driven more than 300 miles and the car was battered. The police searched the woodlands, but did not find Carlie. At that time, a friend of Joseph's came to the police building and said that Joseph had recently spoken about his desire to attack women. After this conversation, police officers took Joseph from prison to the police station for questioning. Joseph entered the interrogation room. He wanted to talk to his mother or brother. The detective convinced Joseph to contact the public defender's office and invite a lawyer. During this interrogation, the officers were unable to find out anything from Joseph, so he was returned back to prison. There he was finally able to talk to his brother John. What he told his brother confirmed everyone's worst fears. 5 days after Carlie's disappearance, Joseph's brother John decided to contact the police and told them a terrible secret. He pointed out to the police the place where Carlie's body was located. He directed them to the church on Proctor Road, in the woods. John revealed that his brother confessed to kidnapping and brutally assaulting Carlie. John said it was Joseph who killed Carlie, beat her, and eventually strangled her with a shoelace. He admitted that he wanted to use sharp objects, but was afraid that he would not be able to wash the car afterwards. The confession was so cruel and disgusting that the brother simply could not express his emotions and was terribly shocked by such a terrible secret. After hearing his brother's secret, John thought that he had used illegal substances or committed theft, but he could not imagine that he would reach such a point. Joseph's mother then also informed the police that her son had contacted her and confessed to what he had done. The police found Carlie's remains exactly where John pointed. It was clear that Carlie was fighting and trying to fight for her life. According to the results of the investigation, the cause of death was determined to be strangulation. Detectives also confirmed that Carlie's body was raped by Joseph. Forensic examination confirmed traces of Joseph's DNA on Carlie's body, as well as fibers of Joseph's clothes and hair. That is, the culprit's guilt has been fully proven. In the car that Joseph borrowed from friends that day, 2 hairs belonging to Carlie and several fibers of clothing matching the one she was wearing that day were found. Joseph was charged with murder. The defense attorney tried to claim that the police framed his client, but Joseph's body fluids and hair were found on Carlie's body. According to the prosecutor, that day Joseph Smith took a shock dose of psychotropic substances, and then the public was outraged that a man with such a criminal past and such criminal tendencies had been released from prison, where he had been imprisoned 13 times over the past 10 years, and why he was so quietly released. Also, about a month before Carlie's abduction, local authorities asked a Florida judge to issue an arrest warrant for Joseph Smith for violating probation conditions. Unfortunately, the judge refused to issue an arrest warrant due to shortcomings in the processing of documents by the police, which led to the idea that if this person had been initially isolated from society, perhaps the tragedy could have been prevented. Little Carlie would be alive, and her mother would not have survived these terrible events. The decisive day came on October 24, 2005, when Joseph Smith was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. He remained in prison awaiting execution. Smith was also suspected of murdering 25-year-old Tara Riley in 2000, but the case was never solved. John, who opposed his brother in court, claimed that it was Joseph who killed Tara, but he is too cowardly to admit it. John was sure that his brother was guilty of this crime as well. He said, "My brother is a real coward. All his life, he has insulted and humiliated those who are weaker than him. He will never admit what he has done, and if he is left free, who knows how many more innocent lives he will take." His wife left him for exactly this reason, although his parents believed to the last that he was a good person. On July 18, 2017, Joseph's death sentence was overturned and a new bill was signed. According to him, the jury should have voted unanimously for the death penalty. Joseph was supposed to be scheduled for a new sentencing hearing, but it was postponed. Carlie's mother, Susan, after learning about her daughter's death, began using illegal substances. The death of her only daughter was an unbearable loss for her. Susan tried to gather her strength, help the Children's Protection Fund and other parents in the search for the missing. She tried her best to help others so that they would not face such terrible events. But after learning that Joseph could be pardoned from the death penalty and possibly later released, Susan lost the meaning of life and died after taking a lethal dose of banned substances. Smith was awaiting a sentencing review hearing scheduled for 2019, which could have saved his life. Joseph Smith was able to avoid the death penalty, but in March 2021, the Attorney General's office confirmed that he should hold a new sentencing hearing. Smith died on July 26, 2021 in prison. The cause of his death has not been determined. He ruined the lives of Susan, Carlie's family, and friends, and was also involved in other crimes that can never be justified. What are your thoughts on this story? Please express your views, leave comments, subscribe, and like. We thank you for watching. Remember to take care of your own well-being and the well-being of your loved ones.